Now, talk us through the potential of East Africa's oil and gas sector. There's talk that East Africa is rapidly becoming the most prospective oil and gas province in Africa. How does it compare to the likes of the West Coast as well as the Northwest?
Thank you, Mashudu. Yeah, we're very excited about the opportunities coming up, and the Petroleum Institute of East Africa is hosting the first East Africa Upstream Petroleum Summit that brings together all the players, government, the producers, the service providers, and the public really in a discussion forum to explore and discuss about this new finding. East Africa is very rapidly, in the last few years, discovered a lot of the hydrocarbons, starting with the commercial finds in Uganda, the gas finds in Mozambique and offshore Tanzania, and the recent discoveries in Kenya, and obviously the commercial production that is going on in the southern part of Sudan. And the finds are quickly moving the region from what has been a frontier market to actually something that is very exciting to the upstream E&P players. And we're very excited about this, and we hope that these resources will actually put more focus on East Africa and bring the profile of all the countries to the fore in the same way that it has done for West African countries.
What role do you see the development of this sector playing in the region?
You find that from a downstream petroleum perspective, the East African countries have been net importers of product. And speaking, for instance, for Kenya, where 25% of the forex outflow has been to fund the importation of petroleum, should there be a commercial find and there is local production, then you're talking about very significant saving in terms of the forex that has been going. This will see the government have surplus funds to deploy in hopefully the development budget that will see the rising of the standards of living of the people here. I think the same should apply to all the other countries because really the macroeconomic fundamentals are the same.
We had the International Monetary Fund urging African oil and gas producing nations to direct their revenues to infrastructure and education rather than white elephants. What did you make of the statements? Do you see all these revenues coming through from the sector being channeled to infrastructure?
Yes, it is our hope as an industry that basically the resources, since they're finite, are applied to projects that will help improve the lives of the peoples of this region without causing unnecessary inflationary pressures. There are a lot of lessons to learn from practices elsewhere, successful and unsuccessful. And it's encouraging to see the governments actually putting in place legal and regulatory frameworks to ensure that when the inflows start, they are properly applied.
And when you look at gas exploration and globally, it seems to be quite commercially viable. What investment opportunities lie for gas exploration companies?
I think geography has a lot to play in this regard. You find that Africa traditionally has been agricultural-based economies, especially in the Eastern African countries. And gas offers potential opportunities to develop fertilizer plants that can then go to supplement that which the local population knows to improve the agricultural productivity. If you look at the power generation capacities in East Africa, actually they're amongst the lowest in the world. So when you have commercial gas finds, and this can actually be put to power generation and other small industries that will actually help improve the economies of the region.
You touched on infrastructure a little earlier. How far are we in terms of infrastructure in East Africa right now?
Well, there hasn't been, other than what is happening in southern Sudan and a little bit on the gas plays in offshore Tanzania, there is no commercial production yet, which offers, in my view, immense opportunity to try and harmonize the investment in infrastructure such as ports, such as pipelines and refineries, so that then the countries are able to efficiently deploy the resources and release value for the oil produced to actually apply this to their economies. By this I mean that, for instance, consider the Lamu port and pipeline proposed facility from Kenya linking Ethiopia and South Sudan. If the pipeline then is tied in to also support the oil exports for Uganda, then you find that there is no duplication of infrastructure, and then it actually lowers the threshold of what you would deem to be commercial resources, and then that means that even as low as a few $100 million becomes commercially viable, and then the countries can start enjoying the benefits of this. You avoid having duplication of refineries all over the place, duplication of pipeline facilities, and other infrastructure like that.
In terms of exploration within the region, when you look at the African companies involved, and what percentage do you see African companies having versus your big multinationals?
A lot of this, really, today you find that there are not too many experienced African E&P companies other than those that are active in West Africa. You find that the African companies that are there are present in support services like oil field services and other related industries. So there has to be a proactive approach by the governments to encourage upcoming local E&P companies, so then this capacity over the years gets to be developed. It is my opinion that there is a place for the big multinationals because of technology, because of bringing in the necessary FDI to open up the E&P space, but also there has to be some targeted interventions by the governments to ensure that as the process of exploration and resource development is deepening, then there is introduction of local E&P companies, so that then we are able to develop this as an industry.
Thank you so much for